Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials, grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Ms. McHale, can we please have the roll call?
Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Here.
Mrs. Koski?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Shannon?
Present.
Mrs. Ziarko?
Present.
Thank you, Council. We need approval of the agenda tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor. Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mr. Radke?
Yes, could we move consent agenda 9N to consideration item 10D?
We'll take item 9N from the consent agenda and make a consideration item number 10D, as in dog. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Radke? Okay, any other comments on this item? If not, council, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin this evening with a quick update on the unveiling of our first outdoor public mural that happened this evening at our public library. So if I can draw your attention to the screen. Before you is a picture of the mural behind the individuals, and you can see it's absolutely fabulous. It's very colorful. So if you're going to our library, this is actually behind the library. It's part of the children's area that's all fenced in, but you can see it from the parking lot. So we're very grateful to the artists who is Kelly Gray and Corpus Art Incorporated, who actually painted the mural for their good work, and also the Beautification Commission for their excellent work in commissioning the mural and getting it done. And we have just a brief video we'd like to show you of this coming together.
This is a project that the city of Sterling Heights is sponsoring, and it is a mural painted here at the children's garden area at the public library. And an artist from the community, a local artist, designed this mural. So, and the city of Sterling Heights asked us to, to place it on the wall. I think that art is very powerful, and public art is for everybody to enjoy and for everybody to express. So in this idea, I like it a lot because, I think it is going to encourage kids to, children to learn and to research and to enjoy reading. And I think that's super, super good.
I think it looks great. I think it looks great. It looks just like the drawing. Yeah, he's doing a great job. It's awesome. And it's great to share with all the people that I still speak to, that I grew up with, to know that this is here, and I can come back and see it anytime. Or my kids, they went to the same school as me, and this is also their library. So it's just kind of means more here because this is, where I go. So it's very cool.
1, 2, 3. Yay!
So we have two more murals that'll be going up in the near future, one across the street and then one under the M53 overpass as you're going along the bike trail you'll be able to see that one. So look forward to more as part of our public art program. And speaking of public art, Sterling Heights has been on the leading edge of public art over the last few decades, including our sculpture park displays throughout our city campus. Many of you have seen them, I'm sure. And we now have a new app on our website that you can go to see a display of all the sculptures. It's called City Art Map. And I just want to click through this with you quickly. And by the way, we are refreshing all of our sculptures throughout the campus with cleaning them up in some cases and putting on new placards to better recognize the artists and so on. So this just shows you how easy it is to click through the display, and there's on the right-hand side a little map that shows you exactly where they are on the city campus. And on our website, there's actually a little narrative background on each piece describing the sculpture and the meaning and the artists and so on. So many of these you've seen, but you can see how easy it is to simply click through. And again, you have the actual location on the right-hand side. Great for educational opportunities, field trips. Kids really love the displays. Just walking over to the mural this evening, there were kids climbing on the bear sculpture, taking pictures, and they're certainly a focal point, to say the least. This one happens to be out for refurbishing. It will be back in soon. And we're in the process of actually evaluating our public art. We'll be talking about that at a later date, but needless to say, over the years, this has been a very good investment. And now moving on, we'd like to talk a little bit about our 50th anniversary, and I'd like to introduce Bridget Kozlowski, our Community Relations Director, and also Tammy Turgeon, our Library Director, and they're going to talk about the update and unveil some exciting news.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Kashubski, and Sterling Heights residents. The city of Sterling Heights has been celebrating its 50th anniversary at events throughout 2018, but next week we're looking forward to hosting our citywide celebration to honor Sterling Heights history and celebrate its future. The event will be held at Dodge Park, and now I'll show a short invitation video encouraging residents and members of the community to join us at this celebration.
Just keep your eyes on me. I said you're holding back. She said, shut up and dance with me. For a second with you, just one and the same. And I believe in miracles, and a miracle has happened tonight. Teenage wasteland, oh, it's only teenage wasteland. Teenage wasteland, oh, it's only teenage wasteland.
So as the video explains, the park does open at 7 a.m., so anyone who wants to get out and jog or just take a look, followed by the splash pad officially opening at 10 a.m., and then the first Dodge Park Farmers Market of the season under the new pavilion starts at 3 p.m. The big culmination, however, will be the stage presentation beginning at 6 on our new amphitheater stage. We'll honor our former and current elected officials, hear congratulatory remarks from our county, state, and federal politicians, honor a 2018 time capsule, receive a plaque from the Michigan Historical Society, and officially mark the grand opening of the park with a ribbon cutting. So we have a full schedule starting at 6. Following the presentation, we have a performance by the Pistons Drumline, which will be very exciting. If you've ever seen them, they're amazing. And a concert by Your Generation, and then the fireworks at 10 p.m. So it really is a full day of activities over at Dodge Park, and we hope everyone can come join us. I'm now going to turn it over to our library director, Tammy, who will expand a little bit more on the time capsule.
Thanks, Bridget. One of the things I'm most excited about is the time capsule. So on June 28th, in honor of our city's 50th anniversary, we're going to be installing the time capsule. It is created and donated by Rosalie Technologies of Sterling Heights, and it's going to be open when the city celebrates its 100th anniversary. So you can see here a rendering of the time capsule. The capsule is all aluminum, and the top will have the Rosalie Technologies logo etched in it, and the front logos are color on a clear film that will be applied and then clear coated. So hopefully it'll be in great condition when everyone opens it in 2068. So throughout the year, the Community Relations Department and the Library and the Historical Commission have been collecting items to be placed in the time capsule that's going to be installed in the new amphitheater in Dodge Park. Some of the items we've included are a model Ram truck from FCA, a flag that represents multiple countries from the Ethnic Committee, a copy of the Sterling Township and the City of Sterling Heights books from the Historical Commission, a bookmark of the Bears statue from the library, a 50th anniversary t-shirt from Community Relations, a letter from the President of General Dynamics Land Systems, letters from council members, board and commission members, employees of the city, and residents of our great city. So additional letters will be accepted to be included in the time capsule until 5 o'clock that day, June 28th. We'll take them up to the last minute. The form is available on the city's website through the 50th anniversary link, and forms are also available at the library. We'll also accept photos of residents and their families enjoying various activities in Sterling Heights. So please include names and locations on the back of the photo so that residents in 2068 can enjoy learning about life in 2018. Additionally, Sterling Heights logoed apparel, drinkware, other items will be available for sale starting at 5 o'clock along with the cupcake giveaway from Meyer. And we're only 9 days away. So we hope to see everybody there for this fantastic day of celebrating our city. Thank you.
And it's hard to drive past Dodge Park without turning and practically running off the road. It's so interesting and fun to see all the exciting improvements. And moving on, City Controller Nick Mackey, Accounts Payable Clerk Deb Beggar, and Budget and Finance Director Jennifer Varney have created a new no-cost program that will generate approximately $300,000 annually. I wanted to highlight this program tonight because there is an item on the consent agenda related to it. Essentially, the program is similar to personal credit card purchases made by credit, which often result in cash rewards or rebates. You're all familiar with that. It is estimated that $20 million in city purchases could be made via credit payment, resulting in 1.5% cash rebates or $300,000, as I mentioned. Paying by credit is also far more efficient for our city staff and increases productivity. So I wanted to highlight the program, which really is innovative for city governments to be doing this, actually any large organization. So I wanted to compliment the individuals who helped set this up, and wanted to make sure everyone knew of their good work, but most importantly, the significant savings as well. And also, everyone I'm sure knows, but city offices will be closed for business on Wednesday, July 4th. Refuse collection will be delayed one day, Wednesday through Saturday. If you have any questions, feel free to see our website. And Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about Lakeside, since I think it's on everyone's mind, especially with Sears announcing that it's going to soon be closing in Sterling Heights, which is no surprise. We all know that Sears has been struggling, and its future is dim at best. But nevertheless, it is certainly noteworthy that they are closing at Lakeside. So let me talk about the importance of Lakeside, some of the metrics, and then just by way of background, inform everyone of what the city has been doing over the past few years to ensure that Lakeside remains successful for many years to come. First, many of you may not know this, but Lakeside is actually one of our largest employers in the city, employing close to 2,000 individuals. Now, that's going to go down some with the closure of Sears, no doubt. But the economic impact of the mall is around, in very rough numbers, $200 million. And that can be broken down as follows. First, just from the employees alone, when you look at the economic multiplier, there are economic multipliers used for every sector of the economy. The economic multiplier for manufacturing jobs is anywhere from 5 to 7. The economic multiplier for service-related jobs is much smaller. For retail, the multiplier is about 1.4. But when you use that multiplier, you multiply the average wage, about 35,000, times the number of employees, you get an impact of about $100 million. And then the valuation of the mall itself is around $100 million. And this is not even talking about the surrounding area, the 70 businesses that surround the mall itself, outside of the mall. And not to mention the businesses that are impacted beyond those 70 as well. So suffice it to say that the economic impact of Lakeside Mall far exceeds 200 million, but that's about what we can quantify with tangible information. Lakeside pays about $2 million annually in property taxes to all of our jurisdictions, making it one of the highest property tax payers in the city as well. So it's incredibly important to the city for all those reasons, including the jobs. The mall encompasses 150 acres and has 7,000 parking spaces, if you can imagine that. With online purchasing taking a much larger segment of market share every year, the future of bricks and mortar malls like Lakeside is not promising. Now, the good news is Lakeside is still doing well. Notwithstanding the Sears closure, the other anchors report strong sales. The businesses inside the mall report that they're doing comparatively well. So Lakeside is not in jeopardy of closing. However, we have to collaborate with all the stakeholders involved in Lakeside, including the current owners, to come up with a reimagined Lakeside. Because doing nothing, standing on the sidelines, hoping and praying it will go well, really isn't a viable option. And it's not going to go our way if we do that. So in terms of what the city has been doing, we started working on a Lakeside sustainability assessment in 2015. And again, we worked with a number of commercial developers. We worked with the property owner at the time, who was General Growth Properties. We held some town hall meetings as we were developing our master plan, seeking some input and thoughts from the community. We basically came up with 2 concepts for Lakeside as we move forward. The first concept before you is typically what's going on with malls across the country that are being proactive and that are not in a state of decline and where the areas are very vibrant, such as Lakeside. These malls are ripe for redevelopment. So in this particular concept, you can see that the parking spaces, the 7,000 spaces, are consolidated in the parking decks, which frees up the vast acreage of parking for other uses, mixed uses, residential, office, commercial, some retail as the mall gets downsized, and health care facilities and so on. So this is one concept that basically keeps the mall intact with all these surrounding uses supplementing the mall. A more viable long-term plan, but much harder to implement in the short term, is basically turning the mall inside out where all the anchors stay and the inside tenants basically move out to other space in the lakeside proper area. And then creating unique features, you know, a drivable, walkable, I emphasize walkable area, because you can see under this concept there are main streets going all through the Lakeside Mall area, creating the town center concept that is really required to make these types of very large malls sustainable for the next 50 years. Lakeside and Sterling Heights has now been open 40-plus years, so we have to be thinking about these new ways to keep it viable for the next 40-plus years and beyond. So our sustainability assessment included these two concepts, and since that point in time, we've been trying to advance these ideas with all the various stakeholders. And most recently, the City Council approved the services of Wade Trim to help us take this concept to the next level. And what this means is after our due diligence this summer and into the fall, we'll be reporting back to the Planning Commission and the City Council with an ordinance that will pave the way, if you will, for a reimagined Lakeside. So that is what we've been working on the last couple of years. Now, as part of our due diligence, we have been looking at models across the country because there's no point in reinventing the wheel when some of these concepts have been successfully implemented in other areas of the country. So we scoured the country, and it was difficult to come up with a situation that's really analogous to Lakeside, but we found one that we thought was very close. It's called the Belmar development in Lakewood, Colorado. Lakewood is similar in size to Sterling Heights. The Belmar development used to be a $1.4 million square foot traditional mall, just like Lakeside. Lakeside's about 1.5 million. With Belmar, they completely redeveloped that mall. The anchors stayed in one way, shape, or form, but all the concepts that I just mentioned were implemented in this Belmar model. So we're taking a very good look at this model to figure out exactly how it came to fruition with all the stakeholders there, the developers involved, what role did the city play, what level of incentives were involved, and so on. So a contingent of city officials and the Planning Commission will be visiting Belmar, specifically in Lakewood, Colorado, on Monday and Tuesday of next week to see firsthand all that went into this very impressive and highly successful development. So these are some of the concepts that we'll be looking at and that are currently in our sustainability assessment. A lot of mixed uses. It's hard to imagine when you think of Lakeside as it is now, but this has been successfully implemented, as I mentioned, in other areas, specifically Lakewood. So there's a lot of features like entrance points, gateways that become restructured and part of the development. You can see here how residential and office are commingled with a lot of other different uses as well. In some cases, I won't say high rises, but in the Lakeside area right now, we have buildings that are 10 stories high surrounding the Lakeside area. It wouldn't be far-fetched to think that you could have a hotel convention facility and other like developments become part of the reimagined mall as we move forward. And again, these are other examples of residential uses. There's a huge demand in this area right now, specifically in Sterling Heights, but even in throughout southeastern Michigan for apartments and lofts and creative residential opportunities, not just for seniors, but for millennials as well. We simply do not have that option right now, but this type of development would create such an opportunity for the city through this town hall type development. Walkability becomes a guiding principle throughout the entire plan as we move forward, not to mention green spaces and open public spaces. Again, even more space for recreational opportunities in Sterling Heights. So as we get through this due diligence, after our visit with Lakewood and continued meetings with the various stakeholders, we'll be holding a community forum once again, so we can seek feedback from the community, residents and businesses alike. And then we will be fine-tuning and completing the mixed-use ordinance that will be presented to the City Council and the Planning Commission late summer, early fall. And again, we will then be embarking on what will surely be an incredible future for the Lakeside Mall area. So that is really it with respect to Lakeside. Look for more information as we move forward over the summer, and we're happy to address any questions that the community may have by calling my office or emailing me, or certainly the mayor or any council members. And Mayor, that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Next item on our agenda tonight is a presentation to rename J.C.'s Park as Gerald N. Donovan Park in recognition of the contributions of the City of Sterling Heights' first mayor. We have a presentation from our Community Relations Director, Bridget Kozlowski. Mrs. Kozlowski.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszewski, and residents. The City of Sterling Heights, as we've discussed, is engaged in a year-long 50th anniversary celebration and is reflecting on and honoring significant contributions made by the men and women who have served Sterling Heights as public servants. As a prominent founder, the city would be remiss by not acknowledging the contributions made by our first mayor of Sterling Heights, Mr. Gerald N. Donovan, who served in his capacity from 1968 to 1971. Because the city has not previously honored Mayor Donovan, we felt this 50th year was an opportunity to thank him in a unique and enduring way. A proposal is being made to rename J.C.'s Park, situated on the southeast corner of Clinton River Road and M53, as Gerald N. Donovan Park. J.C.'s Park is a 5-acre park developed with baseball, softball diamonds, footpaths, hiking trail, nature trail picnic areas, and a brand new playground. A little background. In 1975, the City of Sterling Heights and the Sterling Heights J.C.'s entered into an agreement wherein the J.C.'s agreed to provide annual care and support of the proposed municipal park. Unfortunately, the Sterling Heights chapter of J.C.'s ceased its operation a number of years ago and no longer supports park operations. This spring, the City of Sterling Heights sent a letter to the J.C.'s last known address explaining the desire to change the park name. However, the postmaster returned the letter to the city as the organization no longer has a mailing address. Due to the fact that Sterling Heights J.C.'s have ceased operations, there is an opportunity for us to recognize our former Mayor Donovan by renaming this public park after him. The city plans to officially honor Mayor Donovan with the renaming of J.C. Park during the 50th anniversary celebration on June 28th, and his family and friends should be in attendance there. Park signage will be changed to reflect the proposed name change, and future city publications will reference the newly renamed park. I would now like to invite up the former Mayor Donovan to say a few words because he is here with us tonight. Mr. Donovan?
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, members of council, mayor, and this is the first time I've been on this side. And it has been a long 50 years, believe me. I'm very grateful for the honor that's going to be bestowed upon me, and I'm very grateful to even be here after 50 years. But I don't know what else to say, but way back then when we started out as a brand new city, and we had it takes many, including a good council, mayor and council, former government, and city manager, and it's those first 4 years that I served were very busy years, but very fruitful years, and since then, you people have come a long, long way of improving what we started way back then. And the city, I'm just amazed when I drive around and see the improvements that we made. I was fortunate at the time in '71 when we made the announcement that Lakeside Mall was going to be one of our future establishments, I guess you'd have to call it, but they certainly came in. And I didn't realize at the time that we were, that whole square mile, we were taking in something like, and I could be wrong on the number, of 54 farms around there. I think there's only one barn still standing on Hall Road now, but that turned out to be a nursery and what have you, and I don't know what it is right now, to tell you the truth. I haven't gone by there
A
lately.
strip mall. Shopping center. Shocking, right? A strip mall.
Okay, a strip mall. And that came to be as well, many strip malls. But that was something that we needed, and the city certainly has grown, and I'm sure that with the remarks of your city manager, and having a good city manager, it sure makes an easier job for the city council. I don't know what else to say, but I certainly stand here and say thank you, and thank you. That's all I can do. I think.
If you don't mind, Mayor Donovan, I'd like to invite the city council to come up and take a picture with you.
I'll make sure you get a copy. Have you hold this? We're gonna go around the other side. Where's Mike?
Why don't you get your middle with mine?
On that side, okay.
Alana, would you like to get in the photo? Sure. Miss Mayor Donovan's family's here, so. All right. We'll have you look this way.
Wait, you want Alana next to the mayor?
Sure. All right. We'll have you look this way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're going to put it in the hallway for a little bit.
The sun.
Council, we do need a motion. There is a suggested action, if anyone would like to make that motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Zarko.
resolve to rename J.C.'s Park as Gerald N. Donovan Park in recognition of the contributions of the city of Sterling Heights' first mayor. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Zarko?
You know, we talk about this all the time, and we've been talking about it a great deal during this 50th anniversary year, but it's because of that first council, Mr. Donovan, and the decisions that you made then that put us in the position that we're in today. It's one thing to go back and we look at our charter and we know that the standards that you set have been long-term and they're lasting and they carry us through. And for the few different tweaks we've had to make over the years, it's because of what you've done. And I always say that all the council members that served, it didn't matter if it was for a month or for 30 years, they all moved this city forward, and it's because of that movement that we prosper today in Sterling Heights. And I can't thank you enough for your service. So thank you.
Mrs. Schmidt, anything?
How do you top that? Thanks for, it's an honor. It's actually an honor, and I thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Radke.
Mr. Donovan, I met you on one of my first days in City Hall. I think I had just gotten elected, and you came by and you started talking to me, and I don't think you realized that I was on council yet. And we had a wonderful conversation, and I just thought it was wonderful talking with you because you had so many wonderful stories about the founding of our city. And now I get to sit up here and try to make decisions for the future of our city. So I just wanted to thank you personally, and it's been wonderful.
Council, anyone else? If not, I just want to close by congratulating Mayor Donovan for his service and for this recognition and giving a wonderful speech here today. I thank you for your remarks and thank you for your service to the city. As Councilwoman Zarko said, and it's something that I'm reminded of anytime we have a swearing in for a new police officer or firefighter or a new council member for that matter, that we all kind of look at the example that was set before us. And we have a wonderful city because of the people who came before us. And we all kind of, I think, are proud to be in the position we're in. And we know that with it comes great responsibility. And it's because of the sacrifices that you made and the service that you guys made in founding our city and being great stewards of the city that we can be here today and continue that legacy. So congratulations. We look forward to getting out to the new Donovan Park, and I wish you many, many more good years of happiness and health with your family, Mayor. So thank you again. And one last round of applause, if we could, for Mayor. So Council, without any further discussion on this item, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Congratulations again. Thank you, Mayor Donovan. We do have another presentation tonight, two more actually. Second presentation is to adopt a resolution recognizing and congratulating the 41A District Court on the occasion of its 50th anniversary. Another presentation from our Community Relations Director, Bridget Kozlowski. Mrs. Kozlowski.
If you're not sick of me yet, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszubski, and Sterling Heights residents. The state of Michigan created the system of district courts in 1968. Upon their 50th anniversary this year in 2018, the 41A District Court is joining judicial courts across Michigan to celebrate. As you well know, this is the city's 50th anniversary as well, so this is an exciting time for the court. The Michigan legislature and governor enacted legislation in 1968 to create the state's current district court system. The effective date was June 17, 1968, and most district courts commenced operations as of January 1st, 1969. The district court is often referred to as the People's Court because the public has more contact with the district court than any other court in the state, and many go to the district court without an attorney. Our current judges at the 41A District Court include Chief Judge Douglas Shepard, Chief Judge Pro Tem Kimberly Wiegand, Judge Michael Massaroni, and Judge Stephen Sarowski. I would now like to invite up Mike Piatek to say a few words on behalf of the court.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Michael Piatek. As with the prior gentleman, this is the first time I've been on this side of the table. I've been in that seat quite often. On behalf of the judges and the staff of the 41A District Court, we'd like to thank the members for this recognition, and most importantly, invite all to our open houses coming Friday between 1 and 4. It's going to lack the pizzazz your events have, but we have closed down, for the most part, operations so that we could provide a little more individualized touring and education to those members of the public and or council who arrive. So thank you. Hope to see you on Friday.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Piatek, Magistrate Piatek, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for representing the courts with us today. We do have a suggested action, Council.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Sarowski.
Resolved to adopt the resolution recognizing and congratulating the 41A District Court to the occasion, on the occasion of its 50th anniversary.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Yes, I would like to say a few words. Again, congratulations, Magistrate Piatek. And also I'd like to, on behalf of my husband, who is Judge Sarowski, who is, I will tell you, in Scotland, in heaven, I am sure, playing golf. We'd like to congratulate both the court and certainly the citizens of Sterling Heights. This is it puts us on the map. These are some of the things that we provide to our citizens, and it is certainly run very well. Of course, I personally think with great expertise and with great people, but again, congratulations to the 41A.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. Mr. Radke, anything?
No, I think Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski said it all.
Council, any further discussion? I would just say, as an attorney myself, the district court is a place where you expect that the judges and the magistrates are able to show compassion for people and treat them with dignity. It is a neighborhood court, hopefully, that involves people in the neighborhood, in the community, making decisions that affect the community. And so I think that the state of Michigan did well by establishing the district court system here in the state of Michigan, and we're lucky to have it, and we're lucky to have 3 very good judges and a great magistrate, and including Judge Shepard in Shelby Township. We have a very good court system here. So with no further discussion on this item, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you again.
Thank you. See you Friday.
I will be there. The next item on our agenda is a presentation to acknowledge and accept donations in the cumulative amount of $9,536 to the Sterling Heights Public Library. Presentation from our library director, Tammy Turgeon. Ms. Turgeon.
Good evening, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszybski, and residents. As the library director, I am thrilled to speak with you tonight about the large number of donations made to the Sterling Heights Public Library this year. Donors to the library have been very generous. With the promotion of the library's Memorial and Honor Book program, donations ranging from $25 to $2,500 have been made in support of the library's collections, services, programs, and the facility, for a total amount of $9,536. The library's Memorial and Honor Book program provides residents with the opportunity to purchase materials for the library's collections with a book plate placed inside the book that honors an individual or is in memory of a loved one that has passed. These monetary donations provide for additions to our collections that can be shared with all of the city's residents. It's a great way to support the library and share your love of reading and education. The library would like to take this opportunity to recognize the largest donations to the Sterling Heights Public Library this fiscal year. First, we have Ed Pyatt. Come on up, Ed. Ed is a resident of Sterling Heights, and he's a retired employee of the Sterling Heights Public Library. And in 2002, the Anne Marie Given International Language Collection was established in memory of Ed's late wife. This wonderful collection has grown to include published materials in over 20 languages, including Arabic, Chinese, Polish, Spanish, Urdu, and Vietnamese. Over the past 17 years, Ed has donated $31,000 to the Anne Marie Given International Language Collection. Ed's dedication to the Sterling Heights Public Library and the residents of Sterling Heights is ongoing, as evidenced by a recent $2,000 donation to purchase additional materials for the Anne Marie Given International Language Collection. Thank you, Ed, for your continued support. Unfortunately, the following donors could not attend the council meeting tonight, but I'd like to formally recognize their generosity. Gerald and Patricia DeMare are residents of Sterling Heights and regular patrons of the Sterling Heights Public Library. And over the past 4.5 years, Mr. and Mrs. DeMare and members of the DeMare family have donated $11,650 to the Sterling Heights Public Library to enhance the library's collections, facilities, and services. Mr. and Mrs. DeMare's commitment to the Sterling Heights Public Library and its patrons continues, as evidenced by a recent donation of $2,500 to purchase audiobooks, history books, and other print titles. Ruth Ann Shinzing, a longtime resident of Sterling Heights, was married to the late Donald Shinzing, a former member and chair of the Sterling Heights Public Library Board. In Don's memory, his wife, Ruth Ann Shinzing, made a generous donation to the library in honor of her late husband, Don, totaling $1,161. Don's love of the library and his high interest in education and learning has resulted in the purchase of books, audiobooks, and DVDs on subjects that Don enjoyed, including history, biographies, and music. And lastly, Donna Sutherland is also a resident of Sterling Heights and a longtime supporter of the library. Ms. Sutherland's commitment to the Sterling Heights Public Library and its patrons continues as evidenced by a recent donation of $1,000 in memory of her cousin, Robert Sidlowski, to purchase books on the subject of golf, and also the purchase of an art piece for the stairway wall by the administration office in the library, which still has to be put up, so don't come by yet to see it. The Sterling Heights Public Library's mission is to serve as an information center for our community, offering a wide variety of materials and services for education, entertainment, and enrichment in a welcoming and helpful environment. The donations by Mr. Pyatt, Mr. and Mrs. Demare, Mrs. Shinzing, and Ms. Sutherland, along with all of the other donations received this year, are invaluable to furthering this mission. The Sterling Heights Public Library is a better place because of the generosity of our residents, their families, and our friends. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak tonight.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Turgeon. Council, we do have a suggested action.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Radke.
Resolve to acknowledge and accept donations in the cumulative amount of $9,536 to the Sterling Heights Public Library to enhance the audiobook, DVD, fiction, international language, and nonfiction book collections and fund the purchase of artwork and supplies.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mr. Radke?
I just want to personally thank everyone who donated. I mean, these are such large amounts of money, and the library is such a resource for the community. It really goes a long way. It shows how much people love our library, how useful it is, and thank you, sir. Thank you for donating. It really means a lot to me. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Council, anyone else? Thank you again, sir. Thank you to all those who contribute in making the Sterling Heights Library one of the best libraries in the entire area, and if not the best. It is, I've said it a number of times, I think it's the one city building that probably gets the most use, and people love that library, and I love to see people coming from all cities around to use it. And without the volunteerism that we have there, without the efforts of the staff there, and without the people who contribute and donate, it wouldn't be the library it is. So thank you, Tammy. Thank you to everybody who contributed. And with no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you to the presenters. 3 very good presentations tonight. With that, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is item 7A. This is an ordinance introduction, and it is to introduce the final amendment to the appropriations ordinance for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. We have a presentation from our Finance and Budget Director, Jennifer Varney. Mrs. Varney.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Vanderpool, Mr. Koszubski, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and city residents. Toward the end of the fiscal year, the Budget Office prepares a final amendment to the appropriations ordinance to estimate how we expect to finish the fiscal year, which ends this coming June 30th. I am pleased to report that general fund revenues are projected to come in $3 million or 3.1% higher than originally budgeted, and this is primarily due to receiving a $2.5 million in additional personal property tax reimbursement from the state of Michigan this year. Each community again received an extra proration based on the state's requirement to distribute the entire amount that they had set aside for reimbursement. So every community in the state received a proration at the rate of 292% of what's considered the non-essential portion of the personal property tax reimbursement. So that's the second year in a row that's happened, so that's good news for us. State revenue sharing also came in about $600,000 higher than budgeted, and that was because the state budget that was passed last May included a 2.6% increase to state revenue sharing. And we also received additional revenue due to the awarding of the SAFER grant, and that's going to partially offset the personnel costs of the 15 firefighters that we hired for ALS transport. The total grant award was $2.7 million. About $650,000 of that will come in this year. And again, it's based on reimbursement of the labor costs for the 15 new firefighters. Now, these increases were offset a little bit by lower transport revenue, but that was just due to timing. We had originally planned on implementing that in September, and it got delayed till November, so compared to the budget, we were a little down in that. And also, we've been seeing a little bit lower revenue in ordinance fines and, not surprisingly, cable television. I think everyone understands that less people are subscribing to cable, and we've been seeing that in our fees that we receive from cable television. Now, general fund expenditures came in slightly higher than budget, just $35,000 or 0.4%. But that was mainly due to some transfers out of the general fund. $500,000, we transferred out an additional major road funding. That was part of the overall plan to get our road fixed that's carrying on into the 18-19 budget. And we also transferred $915,000 to the capital project funds. Part of that was to fund the care build-out that was approved by City Council. And we also are setting aside the funds from the SAFER grant for future capital purchases, as opposed to just letting them roll to general fund balance. Keeping those set aside for when we'll know we'll need to replace equipment for the transport. And then we're also reserving the unspent public art funds in the capital projects fund. When the public arts budget was approved, the idea was that we would be able to save money over years to purchase large pieces of art. So we didn't spend the whole allocation this fiscal year, so I'm rolling the difference to the capital projects funds for future public arts purchases. So that's the main reason that the general fund ended up a little bit over. And it was offset by the fact that we saved money, almost $1.4 million in all the other city departments. And primarily it was labor savings in the police and fire department. The police department had some timing issues in filling the open police officer positions, what I know you've heard about from the police chief. I know he wasn't happy about that, but it helped the budget out. And also there was the fire department didn't have as much overtime as anticipated. So the net result of these items is a $3 million increased contribution to general fund reserves over what was budgeted. And you may remember at budget time, I had estimated about an extra $2.5 million increase to general fund reserves. So we're actually, that's $500,000 than what I had estimated at budget time. So for this year end, we're contributing $5.5 million to general fund reserves, and that gets us to about 24.2% of expenditures. So we're really in shouting distance of our goal of 25%. The budget for the other city funds increased by a total of $4.9 million. Now, most of that is due to two funds, the major roads. The city council approved over $2.6 million of additional road spending, and that's increasing the major fund budget. And the rest is primarily in Parks and Recreation, about $2.2 million. And that's just due to the timing of payments. When I did the budget, I did my best to estimate how much we would spend on recreating recreation. We've done a little, in some ways, better than anticipated by getting things done. So it's not an increase at all in the overall recreating recreation budget. It's just a matter of how much we spent this year versus subsequent years. So this is the first reading of this ordinance, and it's scheduled for adoption at the first meeting in July. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Varney. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
resolved to introduce the final amendment to the appropriations ordinance for the 2017-18 fiscal year. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion, Mrs. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Just a brief comment. Anytime we can put more money in the bank, it's a good day. So I appreciate all those involved in helping us do that, from the residents on down to every employee in the city. So thank you, Ms. Varney, and it's a good day.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Mrs. Zarko, anything?
I'm good.
Council, any further discussion? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item on our agenda tonight is item 8A, and this is an ordinance adoption. It's to consider adoption of a map amendment, zoning ordinance number 278, to conditionally rezone property situated on the north side of 15 Mile Road, west of Ryan Road, in section 30, from R60 to O1. Case number PZ 18-0002, the Chaldean Community Foundation. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
resolved to adopt the map amendment to zoning ordinance 278 to conditionally rezone property situated on the north side of 15 Mile Road, west of Ryan Road in section 30, from R60 one family residential district to 01 Business and Professional Office District, case number PZ 18-0002, subject to the terms and conditions of the amended and restated conditional rezoning agreement by the mayor and city clerk, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the city.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Mrs. Schmidt?
Mayor Taylor, I think I'm totally satisfied with the discussion we had 2 weeks ago, and I wish them well.
Council, anyone else? If not, I am too. I thought we had a very good discussion. It's a very ambitious plan. The Chaldean Community Foundation does tremendous work in our community, and this expansion, I think, is going to only help better serve a vulnerable community that we think is just amazing to have here, and we're very proud that the Chaldean community has decided to call Sterling Heights their home. So thank you, Sue, for being here, and to everyone involved. So with no further discussion,
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Koski.
Just a quick question, and I'm assuming representative of the Chaldean community. Do you have any idea when they're going to be starting the project and when it's going to be finished?
Yes, we're hoping end of July or beginning of August. The funds are, there to begin, and 8 to 10 months.
Oh, very good.
The building that's existing there started in April, and we moved in November.
I know you move very fast. Well,
Yes,
good luck
when the
to you.
governor came to, I think it was the assistant governor came to the opening, said that they should have put Martin Manna in charge of the roads, and we would have had the roads done, so.
Well, I attended your last open house, so I'm looking forward to this one, too.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, Ms. Katula. Thank you, Mrs. Koski. Council, anyone else? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Congratulations and good luck. Next is another ordinance adoption. This is to consider adoption of a map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conditionally rezone property situated on the south side of Lakeside Circle between Shoreline Drive and South Cove Drive in Section 1 from O2 to RM3, case number 17-0011, Frank Karam being the petitioner. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this? Sir, do you want to come up and make a few comments?
Yeah, I'm the petitioner, Frank Karam. And, I'll tell you, that concept that you showed earlier, I really commend you, people. It's beautiful. I've been a resident in Sterling Heights, and I think Lakeside is a downtown area. I really do. And really, I commend you to doing such a great job. And my attorney's here. If you have any questions, you can talk to my attorney, Tom Shimatero.
He's billing, so he better say something, right?
My name's Tom Shimatero. My address is 42850 Garfield Suite 104, Clinton Township, Michigan. Mr. Vanderpool, like the presentation you made towards the future development of Lakeside, I'm proud to say that our project here conforms and lines up so well with it. We met many times with the residents here to develop a project that they wanted. We put in more open spaces. We put in more green areas. We gave the city a walkway so when they develop a bridge to the island, people can walk there. That's the total alignment of our project is in total conformity of what you're looking for in the future. So I'm proud to endorse this and hopefully you vote on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Zarko.
Resolved to adopt the map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conditionally rezone properties situated on the south side of Lakeside Circle between Shoreline Drive and South Cove Drive in Section 1 from O2 Planned Office District to RM3 Multiple Family Mid and High-Rise District. Case number PZ 170011, subject to the terms and conditions of the amended and restated conditional rezoning agreement that the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the city.
Support. Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion, Mrs. Zarko?
I want to wish Mr. Karam luck. I'm so grateful that your vision is harmonious with the vision that we have for that area. And I'm glad that you're happy with what you saw here tonight, that it'll be a great future for that particular area. So I wish you luck, and we'll just keep moving forward. But thank you. I think the presentation that was made 2 weeks ago should satisfy everybody as to what's going to happen there. Thank you.
Council, anyone else? Mr. Radke?
Mr. Karam, I just want to congratulate you on designing a wonderful building that I think will be a great part of hopefully the future of Lakeside and the district there. I mean, I think it's perfect for the area, and hopefully it'll be someplace that I could one day retire to, because it looks very nice. Mr. Mayor.
Council, anyone else? Mr. Shannon.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mr. Karam for working with the residents along the lake there. I know that the initial plans had it at a 4-story building. You brought it down to 3 stories, reconfigured the whole building. So I appreciate that. I did ask at that time with the planning commissioner, with the planning director, Mr. McLeod, regarding what our vision was for Lakeside Mall. And I just would like to see, I guess, through administration, some sort of vision for what we see there in the future, because I really would hate to see, I would really hate to discourage other development there based off of heights, because as we saw in some of Mr. Vanderpool's presentations, we saw buildings that were, 10 stories high, whatever it might be. So if we could, get some sort of direction on that in the future, that would be great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shannon. Anyone else, council? If not, with no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations again, and good luck, and look forward. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Next item on our agenda is the third ordinance adoption. This is item 8C, to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Sections 2-18 and 2-19 of the City Code to conform the listing of departments and administrative officers to the confirmed administrative code and plan. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Seeing nobody, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor.
Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Resolved to adopt the map amendment to zoning ordinance number 278 to conditionally rezone properties situated on the south side. Am I in the right one? I'm on the wrong one. All of a sudden, I'm just reading away here. Let me just go
9C.
back. But I do want to continue. Let's go back. So resolved to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 2, subsections 2 through 18 and 2 through 19 of the City Code to conform to the listing of departments and administrative officers to the confirmed administrative code and plan.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Sarowski?
Well, now that I'm at the right place, no, I think that everything, the explanation has been good, background has been provided to us, so I think that I'm all satisfied with what we need. Thank you.
Council, anyone else? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item on our agenda tonight is the consent agenda with the omission of item N. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? Seeing none, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is consideration item 10A, to consider approval of a collective bargaining agreement and memorandum of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and the Michigan Association of Public Employees MAPE Technical Office Union for the period of July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2022. We have a presentation from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to summarize just briefly this new collective bargaining agreement, which, as you mentioned, expired on June 30th, 2018, so this will take effect on July 1. It is a 4-year agreement similar to the other ones, and the wage increases will be 2.5% in the first year, 2% in years 2 and 3, and 2.5% in the final year. The base medical plan will be the high deductible plan. We're moving everyone into the high deductible plan, and that includes this group. Others will have the choice to stay in the other plan we have, but it's more costly to do so. So we believe most will move into this more cost-effective plan for the city and for employees. However, eventually, in year 3 and 4 of the agreement, employees will pay a 10% premium of their health care under this plan, and that will be the same plan that follows them into retirement as well, which This will be the first round of collective bargaining agreements where we actually get a premium share into retirement. There is some paid time off, PTO, that's being revised somewhat, and also some leave time provided to part-time employees as well in the form of paid time off. And the college tuition reimbursement is being increased by $1,000 for both graduate and undergraduate classes. So again, this is again an incentive to encourage employees to seek higher education and pursue their professional knowledge and so on. So those are kind of the highlights of the CBA. I'd like to acknowledge good faith effort and professionalism exhibited by the union. We appreciate the cooperative spirit working through this. And I also want to thank our Assistant City Manager, Jeff Bohorsky, and our HR Benefits Manager, Kate Baldwin, for their hard work in helping to negotiate the agreement. And with the above in mind, I respectfully request the Mayor and City Council approval of the agreement and the necessary memorandum of understanding before you this evening.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Seeing none, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor.
Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Resolved to approve the collective bargaining agreement and memorandums of understanding between the City of Sterling Heights and the Michigan Association of Public Employees, otherwise known as MAPE, Technical Office Union for the period of July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2022, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Just a little bit. I do want to say that I think that this is a very fair agreement. I do appreciate that to attract and to maintain our good employees, especially at the highest levels, we need something like this to keep them guaranteed and to have them understand what they are going to be receiving as an employee. So I think this is a very fair and beneficial agreement for both the city and the employees, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Council, anyone else on this item? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item on our agenda tonight is item 10B, to consider nominations to the City of Sterling Heights boards and commissions. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Jefferson.
As I understand, this is the two-step process that we went through last week. That's something I'd like to the council and the city clerk to go over and put the positions that's being nominated or appointed onto the city, onto the thing, instead of just saying nominations for the whatever. We don't know. But to get moving and getting on that, Mayor Taylor, you are funny, because tonight you came and talked about how the court, the court respected and honored people in this here community, and we know your side isn't because of that situation with Jeff Garrity. I don't understand how he is still getting appointed to a board or a commission after what he's done. But to get past that, Michael Radke, I'm asking you to step aside tonight on the vote for planning commissioner, because after the last meeting, you and I had a discussion, and you said that when Mr. Garrity did what he had to do, you wasn't on city council, so you had nothing to do with that. So I'm asking you to step aside for that vote, just because as the last time, you had nothing to do with that. All right? Because you guys, the last meeting, got rid of Jasmine from her position, and she was supposed to have some issues going on, as well as the people on, as Jeff Garrity had. So, if you can vote on that and get her off her position, why can't you vote Jeff Garrity off of his position? But you don't have to worry, because the 6 other dopes that's up there, they'll do your job
Mr.
for
Mayor,
you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jefferson, you've made your point, and you've done it in a way that violates our council rules by criticizing us and calling names. I don't understand why you do it, but go ahead, continue on.
Well, there's no criticism here. It's just straight out fact. That guy came up here, we all know it. He offended a large portion of this community. How can he still be sitting on the planning commission after doing what he done? And no, not one of you have ever came out and said, hey, wait a minute. That was offensive to us, but hey, that's all right. This is not, as I keep reiterating, this is not happening in any other community except for this one. This is the only one. Like I said last time, Warren, that public official, she resigned because she put up something on the Facebook page that put down Muslim residents in her community. And Mayor Foster was going in a fire, but she resigned. In this community, we know what happened, and nothing. No one said anything like, okay, we did find that disgusting. Nothing. Just sat there with your mouth shut. But that's that. Thank you.
All right, anyone else on this item? If not, council, we have a number of appointments. What we'll do is we'll take the two-step process on nomination and appointments first. We have 3 appointments to the Planning Commission. Is there a council member who'd like to make that motion?
Are we making nominations right now?
These are appointments.
First?
They were nominated at the last council meeting.
Okay, we're just not going out of order on the agenda. That's why I was curious.
I'm on,
9B, 10B is
am I on the wrong
nominations.
one?
And then
Okay.
10C is appointments.
I'm on 10B, to consider nominations, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've got the Board of Ordinance Appeals 1, 2, and Zoning Board of Appeals. These are not the two-step process. So Board of Ordinance Appeals 1 and Board of Ordinance Appeals 2 are both open. I believe they need to be made in separate motions. Does anyone have an appointment for Board of Ordinance Appeals 1?
A nomination.
Yes, I'm sorry, a nomination. Does anyone have a nomination for Board of Ordinance Appeals 1? If not, I would entertain a motion to postpone to the July 3rd council meeting.
So moved. A support.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board of Ordinance Appeals 2 is an open seat. Is there a nomination for that board?
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
I have 2. There's 3 openings, right?
There's
I've got one opening.
on Board of Ordinance Appeals too.
Oh. Never mind, I withdraw.
You had 3, now you've got none? Okay, I would
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion to postpone to the July 3rd, 2018 council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. July 3rd council meeting, that should be a well-attended one. Zoning Board of Appeals, Derek D'Angelo is seeking reappointment. Would anyone like to make that nomination?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shannon?
Resolved to nominate Derek D'Angelo for consideration as an appointee to the Zoning Board of Appeals at the July 3rd, 2018 regular city council meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item is item 10C. This is the one with, that I was on before. It's to consider appointments to the City of Sterling Heights boards and commissions. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? If not, council, we do have, as I said, a number of appointments. We'll take the two-step process first and make the appointments. The first up is the Planning Commission. We have 3 nominations, Jeffrey Garapi, Stefano Militello, and Donald Miller. Who'd like to make the motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shannon.
Resolved to appoint Jeffrey Garapi to the Planning Commission to a term ending, oh, I'm sorry, can I do all 3 at once? I can, right? I don't have to go through each one. I'm sorry, right?
Normally, we go through each one.
Want me to go through each one? Okay. Here we go. So the first one, resolve to appoint Jeffrey Garapi to the Planning Commission to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03, taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? All right, I am going to address this because it's been brought up like a broken record by Mr. Jefferson. I appreciate your concern, I really do, but you are leaving out the fact that Mr. Garapi came up here and gave a heartfelt apology. He apologized publicly, he apologized on his Facebook page, and it is what I would say an isolated incident in what is an otherwise stellar career as a volunteer and as a model citizen for the city of Sterling Heights. So we're not going to look at least I personally am not going to look at one mistake, which was a ill-fated joke, ill-fated attempt at a joke, as a disqualifier from him serving in a capacity as a volunteer for our city. He is leading our CERT team. He is somebody that is very active in his community. He's an active parent at his children's school. And as I said, I believe he is a model citizen for the city of Sterling Heights. We certainly understand your position, Mr. Jefferson, and you've made it clear over and over and over. You have a personal vendetta against Mr. Garapi. I don't understand it, but he is going to continue serving because I believe he is a great representative of the city of Sterling Heights. He is smart, he's hardworking, he's insightful, and he is an asset to the city of Sterling Heights. And so we can keep going over this over and over and over, but he came, he made a very heartfelt apology. He did more than just apologize. He offered to reach out and figure out a way to better understand what he did. And I believe he's more than made amends for the mistake he made. So with that, all in favor,
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor Taylor?
Radke.
Sure. I just,
Go ahead.
no problem. Mr. Garapi made a terrible joke. I was sitting on that side of the podium when he did it. He came and he apologized profusely, and I think he's still apologizing. He works very hard for our city. I see him at almost everything I go to. He leads our CERT team. He's a valued member of the Planning Commission. He works very hard, and I know he's very sorry. I take him at his word. He's done a tremendous amount for our city. I support him, and I think he'd be a valuable member of the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Radke. Mrs. Zarko.
It's been brought up several times that the six of us have sat here and we didn't say anything. Maybe publicly we didn't, but there are several of us that have had private conversations with Mr. Garapi about this particular incident. And we set guidelines, and he's followed those guidelines since then, so no further discussion from me on it.
Anyone else? Yeah, I think his public flogging should be over. He is a very valued member of our community, and, he's said he's sorry, and he deserves another chance. And so,
Mr. Mayor, can I just, since I made
Yeah.
the appointment, I agree with what's been said up here at the dais that Mr. Garapi did come in front of the city council and made his apology. He actually contacted us pretty much instantly the next day or two after it happened by email, and we had some discussions that way. So I have full confidence in Mr. Garapi, and I think we're at that point of voting yes or no on his nomination.
all right, yeah, I agree. Without any further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, Mr. Shannon.
Yep, resolved to appoint Stefano Militello to the Planning Commission to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Oh, sorry, I didn't get mine in there.
Got it.
My mistake. I'm looking at my next one that I got to get ready for. My bad. Sorry.
Motion carries. I think, right? Did we get it done, Mr.
Okay.
Koszewski?
Sorry, that was my mistake.
As for the nay, there's no nay.
No nays, all right. We're on to suggested action number 3 on the Planning Commission.
Resolved to appoint Donald Miller to the Planning Commission to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03, taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next is the Board of Ordinance Appeals. we have two members that are seeking reappointment that have been nominated, Robert Irvin and Julie Hoff-Windhorst. Is there anyone who'd like to make these motions?
Mayor.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Resolved to appoint Robert Irvin to the Board of Ordinance Appeals to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Suggested item 2, Mrs. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Resolved to appoint Julie Hoff-Windhorst to the Board of Ordinance Appeals to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the appointments to the Board of Ordinance Appeals 2. We have two appointments to make, Michael Stickney and Brian Cole. Somebody like to make those motions?
Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Koski.
Move to appoint Michael Stickley to the Board of Ordinance Appeals 2 to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
I just wanted to point out that Mr. Stickney has a perfect attendance record, and that's really impressive for our boards.
That is very impressive. Anyone else, council? With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next one, Mrs. Koski.
Yes. Move to appoint Brian Cole to the Board of Ordinance Appeals 2 to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next is the Board of Review. These are appointments. There are two openings. Or I should say there are two appointments, Richard Golpe and Mona Yassin. Is there a council member who'd like to make these motions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolved to appoint Richard Golpe to the Board of Review to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is Mona Yassin. Mr. Radke.
Resolved to appoint Mona Yassin to the Board of Review in a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is appointment to the Police and Fire Pension Board. This is, let me see if I got this correct. Yeah. The one opening, or one appointment, Robert Malzak seeking appointment. Is there anyone who'd like to make that motion?
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Zarko.
Resolved to appoint Robert Malzak to the Police and Fire Pension Board to a term ending June 30th, 2022, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Zoning Board of Appeals, two appointments, Leonard Reinowski and Pashko Wikai. Is there anyone who'd like to make these motions?
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Resolved to appoint Leonard Ranowski to the Zoning Board of Appeals to a term ending June 30th, 2020, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second is Pashko Wikai. Mrs. Schmidt.
Resolved to appoint Pashko Wikai to the Zoning Board of Appeals to a term ending June 30th, 2021, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The following boards and commissions are the ones that either got postponed from the last meeting or there were no, Or it's a one-step process, excuse me. First is the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Authority. Catherine Giles is requesting reappointment. I would like to have her reappointed. I did not have an opportunity to speak to Ms. Giles between the last council meeting, so I guess I will leave it up to the council, but my request is to have Ms. Giles reappointed.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Zarko.
my first question before I make the motion is, did you still want to talk to her and postpone it, or do you just want the appointment?
I would prefer the appointment, but
You
I will,
prefer?
but I
Okay.
would prefer to have her reappointed, yes.
Is this a two-step process?
No, it's a one-step process, but it is a mayoral appointment, so I would ask that Catherine Giles.
Okay, I think her attendance was in question the last time, so let's go, I will go along with what you want to do because it's your appointment. However, I think you do need to contact her and she has to be diligent about
I
attending
will.
the meetings, okay?
I will
And
make sure of
then
it.
if she doesn't, then I think she should just not ask to be reappointed. How's that sound?
Yes, I'm comfortable with, I will be making contact with her, and I believe we have, Mr. Koszybski, correct me if I'm wrong, she has to take the oath of office within 2 weeks, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to contact her within the next 2 weeks and make sure that we talk.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Fair enough. Okay, on the recommendation of the mayor, resolve to appoint Catherine Giles to the Economic Development Corporation Brownfield Authority to a term ending June 30th, 2024, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the Board of Code Appeals. This is a council appointment. Terry Measle is requesting reappointment. Is there anyone who'd like to make that motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shannon.
Resolved to appoint Terry Measle to the Board of Code Appeals to a term ending June 30th, 2023, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03, and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the Ethnic Community Committee. This is an open seat. It is a mayoral appointment. I have made contact with Carmen Williams, who has applied for this position and indicated that she would like to be appointed. The Ethnic Community Committee was high on her list, and I don't believe she's serving on any other boards or commissions at this time, so I would request that Carmen Williams be appointed to the Ethnic Community Committee.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Zarko.
On the recommendation of the mayor, resolve to appoint Carmen Williams to the Ethnic Community Committee to a term ending June 30th, 2019, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the Local Development Finance Authority. This is an open seat with the mayor's appointment. I have not made contact with him, but I did leave a message for him. Robert Lukovich, who recently applied for boards and commissions, listed the Local Development Finance Authority as his number one request. He has a strong business background. He does not serve on any other boards or commissions, so I'm confident that he would do a great job based on the credentials he provided in the backup material and in his application. So I would request that Robert Lukovich be appointed to the Local Development Finance Authority, and a council member make that appointment on my behalf.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shannon.
On the mayor's, sorry, do I need to say that first part? I can just say the result, right? Because on the mayor's on the mayor's recommendation, resolved to appoint Robert Lukovich to the Local Development Finance Authority to a term ending June 30th, 2022, subject to the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03 and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for those two appointments. The next is the Beautification Commission, one opening, City Council's appointment. Do we have a appointment, council? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to the July 3rd, 2018 City Council meeting.
So moved.
Or, I'm sorry, postpone to the July 3rd, 2018 Council meeting.
So moved.
Support. It's been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next is the Historical Commission. There are two openings. This is a city council appointment. We do have recommendations from our staff liaison. If anybody would like to make those appointments.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Radke.
Let me just find the right page. Resolve to appoint Mark Shell to the Historical Commission to a term ending June 30th, 2021, with the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 403, and taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. There is a second appointment there, Mr. Radke.
Resolve to appoint Nicholas Cavalli to the Historical Commission to a term ending June 30th, 2021, such the appointee meeting the qualifications set forth in Charter Section 4.03, taking the oath of office within 2 weeks.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion there? Good job, Nick. I just will say, I appreciate the way you ran your campaign for city council last time, and we anticipated that you'd be back. And we always love when people want to serve. I particularly love when younger people want to serve. You're a young man with a lot of passion and drive, and we expect you to do great things in your future, and look forward to having you serve in a more official capacity on behalf of the city of Sterling Heights. All right? So thank you very much for your willingness and willingness to volunteer and serve.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Ray.
I just wanted to congratulate Nick on this appointment. I know you've come to meetings and you've gotten very involved, and we're happy to get you even more involved with the city. So congratulations.
With no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Nick. Next item, I think that is all of them. Am I right? Or do I, oh, yes, we have one more. Item D is going to be 9N from the consent agenda. This is a consideration item to approve a settlement agreement and release and resolution of Sunnybrook Golf Bowl and Motel Incorporated versus City of Sterling Heights, Macomb County Circuit Court Appeal Number 17-5-2-AA, and an offer to purchase real estate commonly known as 38950 Van Dyke. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Mr. Smith.
Yes, well, Paul Smith, Sterling Heights. I'm glad to see that you took this off the consent agenda and didn't do it in closed session. So since it's an open session, we'd like to hear what situation the city got itself into that needs this settlement. Hopefully the people have a right to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else on this item? If not, council, we need a motion? Need two motions?
Two separate actions.
Let me pull it up. Is there anyone that would like to make the suggested action?
Mayor Taylor.
Mayor Pro Tem Surowski.
Resolve to approve the offer to purchase real estate between the City of Sterling Heights.
Oh, you got to read it from the beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Resolve to approve the settlement agreement and release and resolution of Sunnybrook Golf Bowl and Motel Incorporated versus the City of Sterling Heights, Macomb County Circuit Court Appeal Number 17-5-2AA, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval.
Support. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion, Mrs. Surowski?
No, I think that well, yes, actually, I would like to have the city manager answer Mr. Smith's question if possible, if we could give a little more background as to why we are doing this. Or do you want Mr. Koszubski, either one?
Well,
Mr. Vanderpool.
thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Surowski, I'll give a general overview, and the city attorney can fill in the details. This involves the Sunnybrook sign out on the the southeast corner of Van Dyke and 17 Mile Road. As many of you know, this used to advertise the former Sunnybrook Golf Course. It was an off-site sign pursuant to a former consent agreement. And when the Sunnybrook Golf Course went away, we required that the sign be removed. The owner challenged the city, and we've been in some form of litigation since then. However, while the litigation was pending, the owner approached the city and indicated he was willing to sell the property for, well, the prices stated in the agenda statement is $50,000. That was negotiated down some in the intervening period of time. There's an adjacent property owner who expressed interest in purchasing the property for $40,000. So in essence, the city would be selling it with the city council action tonight, purchasing it and then selling it immediately thereafter to the adjoining property owner. Presumably, that property owner will want to put up a marquee sign, which they currently do not have. So the long and short of this is the Sunnybrook sign would thereafter be removed in short order, I would imagine within probably a couple of weeks.
Okay, very good, thank you. So just to reiterate that we are going to just resell it because we've spent enough money in litigation. This is going to cut our losses in the long term, correct?
That's exactly right. And at the end of the day, the net cost to the city, somewhere around $10,000. I say somewhere because there's going to be some scrap value for the metal involved in the sign as well. So we think for approximately $9,000 or so, this is a reasonable opportunity to settle this and avoid any other future legal costs down the road. And in addition, get rid of a very unsightly sign that really is nothing more than a maintenance code issue right now. And as that entire area is being enhanced aesthetically with businesses investing millions, in some cases billions of dollars when it comes to FCA. But we have 3 new hotels that are going to be going up in the area with an investment of many millions of dollars. So it's good to get rid of these somewhat blighted situations whenever we can.
Very good, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Sarowski. Anyone else on council?
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Zarko.
I just want to add that almost immediately after Sunnybrook Golf and was sold, we started getting complaints from residents that asked us to remove the sign if it wasn't going to be in business. So this is really answering some of the complaints that we received. Thank you.
Council,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Radke.
I asked for this item to be taken off the consent agenda to consideration item. I'm against buying and then selling the sign. I think this is a tremendous waste of city money to basically buy a sign, to knock it down and then sell it to the person next door. The sign is ugly, but it's hardly noticeable. It's at 17 Mile and Van Dyke on the southeast corner. I drive past it all the time. I barely notice it. This is one of the things I think we could accomplish through code enforcement. Just keep on enforcing the code, and eventually the business owner will decide that he wants either meet our codes or get rid of the sign. I just think that we have a fiduciary duty to the citizens here, and to take a $10,000 loss on a sign that doesn't really matter, I think is just silly. So I'm going to be voting no.
Council, anyone else? Just briefly then, I would say I don't necessarily disagree with that, Mr. Radke. I don't like the idea of just buying a sign only to tear it down. But there is cost in that continuous code enforcement, and there's cost in continuous litigation with this property owner who is
Litigious.
not, litigious, I would say is a good word. So while in the short term it may seem painful, in the long term I think it'll save money. This is our only off-premises sign, I believe, in the city of Sterling Heights, the only one that I'm aware of. And to be able to remove it would remove a precedent, maybe, if another business owner came in and tried to do something like this. And so I think there are intangible values to having it removed, particularly, as Mr. Vanderpool said, we're trying to clean up that area, and it is unsightly. And as Mrs. Zarko said, there have been complaints, and I've received them as well. People don't understand it, and they don't like it. So it is a significant cost, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's something that I'm willing to pay, and I'm glad that the adjoining property owner has offered to purchase it and defray over 80%, about 80% of the cost. So that's why I'll be voting yes. Is there anyone else with anything, final words? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Next item on our agenda, that concludes our business portion of our agenda. Next item is the communications from
We have to do the second part?
Yes, of course.
Second motion.
The one I
Number
tried
two.
to start.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski.
Okay, so for the second part of that action, resolve to, A, approve the offer to purchase real estate between the City of Sterling Heights and TGI Miller LLC, contingent upon the city acquiring 38950 Van Dyke from Sunnybrook Golf Bowl and Motel Incorporated, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval. And B, to authorize an amendment to 2018-2019 budget to use $50,000 of land and water fund balance reserves to purchase 38950 Van Dyke.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Mr. Koszybski, any issues?
Just in the name TIG Miller, did you mean TIG or TGI Miller?
Well, I meant TIG. If I transposed the letters, I apologize.
That's sufficient.
TGI Miller,
That's
yes.
sufficient.
TIG Miller. Okay, TGI Miller, you're not getting the property, sorry. Okay,
Maybe someone
any
out there.
discussion on this item, Mrs. Sarowski?
No, I think it's been sufficient. Just one quick mention that, yes, it is just basically, and I do understand Mr. Radke's concerns, but as we know, legal firm fees are extremely expensive. Constantly having somebody go out, manage it both through the city and through the ordinance officers. Unfortunately, we've been dealing with this gentleman for a while, and although I have no personal problem with the gentleman, I just don't like the litigation involved constantly, so this is just to cut our losses. Unfortunately, we have to sometimes do that, and that's all I have to say.
All right, council, anyone else on this item?
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool, once Tig Miller purchases the property from us, will that money be put back into the Land and Water Fund?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Councilwoman Schmidt, that is correct. It will be reimbursed, and that will occur as soon as we get the money.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, council, anyone else? Mr.
Mr.
Radke?
Mayor, I just have to keep on going. I think that if TIG Miller wanted to have a premises sign, they could have contracted directly with Sunnybrook Golf and Bowl to buy the sign, to knock it down, to put up their own sign. I think the city getting involved in the middle of this is just a loss of money for us and frankly silly. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Shannon.
If I recall, it was at the encouragement of Ms. Schmidt to actually go out to TIG Miller and ask him if he wanted to buy this, if he had any interest in buying this. I don't think he had any idea that this was even an option for him. So, in my opinion, the city saved, or Mrs. Schmidt and the city council saved $40,000 to the city. Am I incorrect in that one?
Thank you, Mrs. Schmidt.
I mean, that's just how it was played out. If TIG Miller was going to purchase this, he really had no idea that it was for sale until the city approached him and said, "Hey, any interest in buying this sign in this small piece of land?" I mean, I think that's how it played out.
I believe so.
So that's all I have.
Okay, anything else?
Mayor Taylor? For the record, I did not reach out to anyone. I just wanted to put that on the record.
No, I didn't mean that she reached out, that she had suggested for the city to reach out to this gentleman and ask him if he had any interest in buying it.
Well, suffice it to say that the owner of TIG Miller was happy to be informed that this was an opportunity, and he's covering most of the cost that the city is paying, and so it's all working out. And at least as best as could be expected. It solves a problem at that corner that has been plaguing that corner, I think, for a number of years, and one way or the other, it's getting resolved tonight. So without any further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, motion carries 6-1 with no vote. Now we will move on to communications from citizens. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda? I'll start with you, ma'am, since you're standing up.
I don't even know exactly where to start, but, my name is Deanna. I've been a resident of Sterling Heights for 33 years. I've lived next door to the same people for 33 years. When my neighbor's husband died a few years ago, she's taken it upon herself to make her home an animal shelter. She's been feeding all the homeless cats in the neighborhood. One day I said to my son-in-law, I said, I left my glasses at work, but please tell me, is that a possum eating amongst those dozen cats next door? He said, yep, sure is. Yesterday morning, I walked out the door to be greeted by a raccoon who was really scaring me. I mean, I couldn't get my key in the door fast enough to get back in that house. I've seen skunks coming up and down her driveway. I have been dealing with animal control now for, this is probably the third spring, but last year I really started pressing the buttons, and I've been dealing with Nicole Charbonneau of the animal control. She's come over, she has told me that they have removed some of these cats, and my neighbor has paid for all of them to be fixed. So I let it go at that. A month later, there's a half a dozen babies. So now I'm back on the phone again this spring dealing with Nicole Charbonneau. She comes over, she tells me she's working on trying to get some of these cats placed. She'll get back with me. I don't hear anything from her. Now, mind you, half my neighbors have put up 6-foot high privacy fence to keep all these wild cats out of their yard. Me, I figure, why do I have to pay to get a fence put up? It's not an animal shelter. She should not be feeding these cats. Plain and simple. The other day, well, maybe 3-4 days ago, from my pool deck, I took a picture of her driveway. She had 6 dinner-sized plates of food out for these animals, not to mention 2 huge pans of water for them. You know, of course, every time I come out my door, cats scatter everywhere. And I mean, it's really hard to get a picture of all these cats because they like deer in the headlights. As soon as you open the door or step out, they run in every direction, all day, all night. I can look out my kitchen window. There they are, sitting on my pool edge, drinking out of the pool. The other night, my husband and I are sitting on the back porch in the middle of the night. A cat fell in the pool. Well, now he's scratching to get out. So is he going to rip my lining to get out? Who knows? This winter, these cats kept digging holes in my pool cover and using my pool as a litter box. My husband and I would tape up the hole. They'd just create a new hole. Tape up that hole, they'd create a new hole. I'm just like, can't deal with this anymore. They've wrecked the foam on my trampoline I just bought my grandchildren, shredded it to pieces. Now, what good is it to have a net on my trampoline if they're gonna whack their head on the bars? Same thing with my neighbor's trampoline. Well, they were one of the people who put up a privacy fence. Okay, now, end of April, I said to my daughter, I said, well, let's see what this pool water looks like. I can just imagine. We pulled it back, and I am telling you, we're gagging. It smelled so bad, and then I say, oh, and then look here, here's a dead cat. So I have to get on the phone with Michelle Charbonneau. She and her coworker Kim come over, take the cat out of my pool, which smelled very bad. I mean, I'm gagging. I don't know how these girls can do their job, but needless to say, I'm not getting anywhere. I've gone now over her head to Sergeant Kilvalachik. He said, give me till Monday or Tuesday. I'll have it taken care of. Tuesday came, nothing. Don't hear a word from him, nothing. Now I've called Captain Pappas. He says, I'm gonna come over Monday morning and take a peek and see, you know, what her driveway looks like with all the cat dishes and stuff. Did I hear from him? No.
All right, ma'am, unfortunately, your time's up, but
My
what I'd
time
like,
is up and I'm done, but one more thing. I need some help from you guys.
We will.
I'm really, really asking for the help. If I can't get any help from the city, you know where I'm gonna be forced.
we will, look, I
Get
agree
a
with you.
lawyer, then Channel 7 Action News.
I hate
They've helped
these
me
cats.
before.
So can you do this? Can you provide Mrs. McHale with your address and your neighbor's
I certainly
address?
would.
And I'm sure we could get it, but I agree that it's a huge nuisance to have packs of cats like this. And I think it's time that we look into an ordinance. Isn't there
Oh, yeah,
an
she's got
ordinance
6 new
banning?
babies now. There's
Yeah, okay.
half a dozen more since
We're
I've
gonna,
talked to
we're
everybody.
gonna look into it. Please leave your contact information
Okay.
with our clerk and we'll get
I
it.
would very much like to see something in our ordinance passed, because I know that the city of Sterling Heights only allows you to have 4 adult animals.
I know, ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm gonna
We
have
need to get a
to,
bill passed
I'm
saying.
gonna have to stop you there.
People who feed wild animals are gonna be fined.
okay, thank you. Who'd like to be next under communications from citizens? Mr. Smith.
Paul Smith, Sterling Heights. I came in to talk about the junket to Colorado. While I was waiting to talk, I started to get cold feet on it a little bit. I thought this thing was so lavish and so unprecedented that maybe somebody set me up with a false story to get me to come in here, but Mr. Vanderpool confirmed the whole thing. You know, if you want to look at a successful mall, you just get in your car, you go to Partridge Creek or Somerset. Watching these presentations, it's very obvious that everybody's already made up their mind that they want to convert Sterling Heights to this mall out in Colorado. So if everybody's made up their mind, what do we need to send 20 people out there to walk through a mall and say, yeah, I'd like to have one like that? I guess, you know, maybe we'd like to have one like that too. But Lakeside isn't city property. It's a piece of private business property, and it's the business of the owners of that, what they do with it. It's not our business. It's their property.
Ma'am, sorry, Mr. Smith, go ahead.
So I mean, I travel out to Colorado sometimes. Once in a while, we fly, usually drive, but I really pinch pennies. I know how to do it on the cheap. And it would cost me $1,000 to do this trip, but I know you people don't know how to do things on the cheap. So we're looking at maybe $1,500 or $2,000 a person for what, 20 people? We're going to drop 30 or 40 grand for some people who come to a meeting and vote yes on everything anyway, to look at a mall so they can say, we looked at the mall and this is what we want. I don't want to be accused of bringing up closed business, but we spent 20 minutes talking about a $10,000 piece of business that actually improved the city, and I didn't see any discussion of the cost of this junket. That here we're spending all this money. He says, all right, we're 10 grand to the bad, and we got rid of a 50-year-old eyesore. That's a nice piece of work. But nothing is going to change from this junket. What in the world's going on? Mr. Vanderpool's presentation, he says Lakeside employs a lot of people. Actually, they only employ a handful of people. Lakeside scarcely employs anybody. The tenants in Lakeside employ people. Lakeside doesn't employ people. 35,000, what are you looking at? $10 an hour for 2,000 hours, that's 20 grand, but who works full-time out there? There's not $35,000 jobs. They bring in a few seasonal workers. As far as jobs, if Lakeside wasn't there, those same people will be working in strip malls in this area, in the stores that put Lakeside out of business. And incidentally, you guys in the Planning Commission falling over yourselves to rezone property to build excess commercial. When you say who put Lakeside out, you cut their throat yourself with all these strip malls that you boxed them in with. You have strip malls everywhere. You say, well, gee, it's too bad Lakeside's going. Well, Lakeside's not a failure. The people that put it in made their money and moved on, just like everybody else, just like Northland. They made their money and moved on. Well, the only thing positive of this, for the next election, we got a heck of a piece of ammunition to use against you. And if you come up and ask for more millage, you've really showed how you spend money. When we give you money, you spend it on sightseeing junkets. Well, good luck. Finally, August 7th, we got a primary election, governor, U.S. senator, state reps, county commission, county clerk, and yet another DSR bailout tax. So not to say anything against it, if you want to subsidize the bus, it's your chance to go to vote to subsidize the bus again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Anyone else on communications from citizens? We got somebody who's beat you to it, Mr. Jefferson.
Rita Wolinzik, Sterling Heights.
Could you put the microphone down so we can hear you?
Can you put the microphone? There you go.
I have a reply to an email that my husband had sent to Mr. Taylor, and it was replied by Jeffrey Bohorsky, and it's regarding a property that's been abandoned for 5 years on my block. It's directly across the street from my home. I have photos of raccoons living in the home 5 years ago. I have photos of the hoarding that's going on in the garage. This owner's son has been adding merchandise, whatever it is, to the garage as of Sunday still. I know they having a situation with code violations. There's a sign in front of the property as of yesterday. The roof is not structurally sound. But the reason I would like to know is the reply from Jeffrey Bohorsky says that they cannot go in the property because the owners will not allow them, and they need a court order. And what I'm asking is, could you please get this court order? This has been going on for 18 years that I've lived in my home, and the home has been abandoned for 5. There are cats living in the attic. There are bats in the attic. I see them going through. There's a hole in the roof. The fire department went to get the cats out. They will not even go on the roof because it is so bad. And I'm just asking that if you look at the photos and the condition of the property, it's not inhabitable. This house needs to be leveled, and where will that leave my property if these rodents are let loose? They have 3 contractors taking bids on the property to replace the roof. If they open that up, do we need a hazmat team? Do we need to tent the property to keep the rodents from going in my house, in my yard? This is an issue for not only city council, but possibly the EPA. On a windy day like yesterday, you can smell the stench across the street from the feces in this home. And it's been like that for over 18 years. They have also got an exemption on taxes. They have not paid property taxes to the city or the county since 2001. And I think that's a real shame that we have to live with this, and these people can abandon the house and do nothing. But it doesn't appear to be a nuisance property according to the city, which doesn't put much faith in the city when we've been telling you about this for 5 years. But if you could get that court order, that would be wonderful, because there's so much garbage in that house, you can't stand the smell of it from across the street. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wanzik. We'll have a more detailed response for you later tonight after we're done with communications from citizens, but I'll suffice it to say that the city is very well aware of what's going on, and we're doing everything that we can within the confines of the law to address the issue, and we're confident that we'll be able to get something done very shortly, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lajeunesse, and I live at 36564 Lodge Drive, across from the home that was just spoken about. And we represent 5 homes here surrounding this property. And we have 19 young children that are in the vicinity of this property, most of which are less than 7 years old. There are many wildlife animals that are inhabiting this property, as well as around the property. There's a black color creeping across the windows, which makes us believe that perhaps there's mold here. The stench, as she said, is terrible. The firefighters have reported that it's an unstable roof. They won't even go on it. There is a gap in the roof, which is allowing these animals inside. Animal control's been called out, and they've reported the feces is everywhere inside. They've also said it's an unstable roof. We're just wondering, what does it take? Does it take a child being bitten by the wildlife for the action to happen, when several of us have been contacting this, the city and the various organizations for 5 years? And we just really want the action to happen now. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else want to speak on it?
Just that we would like to see something done. I live 3 houses down, and I have 4 young kids. And we would like, it's been 5 years. It's been too long. There's no excuses anymore. Something needs to be done immediately. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone else under communications from citizens who'd like to speak? Mr. Jefferson?
Charles Jefferson, Sterling Heights. First things first, it is the summer. So if you have any people have a little something going on, it's been hot this week, could you please go over there and check on them? And number 2, it is the summertime. Make my annual speech at this time. Can you please pull out at least one earbud if you're running or riding your bike? If you can't, please don't have it up to maximum decibel so you can hear yourself. And number 3, please watch yourself, brothers. It is summertime and it is open season again. Number 4, Mr. Vanderpool, could you go over the fire ordinance, the fireworks guidelines, because by the next meeting, they should be in full effect. Number 2, or 4 or 5 now. Mr. Vanderpool, can you explain to the residents, so we don't have to hear about the high water bills again this year, what people could do to possibly lower their water bills? Next point, Mr. Vanderpool, we know Ford Motor Car isn't making cars anymore. What's the plans for the transmission plant? Because they're laying off people right as we speak as of today. Next point, Nate Shannon, at the last meeting, you was asked a question about the RTA. Mr. Smith brought it up tonight. Can you explain to us over the last 2 weeks what you and your experts have come up with, so you can give the residents a clear understanding of how we could vote for that? Because with us leaning so much onto manufacturing, the busing system in this community, as I explained the last time, would be important to this community. If you can't do that, you can't be our state representative. We need a person that talk and fight for us. Liz Sharowski, at the last meeting, you was asked a question on how many people is anticipated to be in the Lakeside Mall area. Can we find out that information from you tonight, or where can we find out that information from you or your organization, your staff? Because I keep saying it's gonna, from the plans, that Lakeside Mall area is gonna have to be reconfigured, because Canal 2 lanes, Lakeside, Shaner, 3 lanes, but they get jammed up pretty good. 19 Mile Road, 2 lanes, Saul Road, like 4 lanes, Hall Road always jammed up. So what's the possibility of us finding out that information, Mayor Taylor? With the announcement today that Ford is going to get between 2,000 and 5,000 people down to the city of Detroit, you've been asked this question before, and you still haven't answered. What are you doing to attract more residents, especially the younger residents, to Sterling Heights? And if not, that plan needs to start to be implemented today, because Ford said they're supposed to be, their building will be up by 2022. We need to have our infrastructure, especially around that Lakeside Mall. If that's the plan to attract people, that needs to be up and running by 2022. As I said, we don't have any affordable housing here in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and that needs to be our #1 objective at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson. Anyone else under communications from citizens? Mrs. Hatton.
Dolores Hatton, resident of Sterling Heights since it was Utica. Mr. Vanderpool, could we please have a Kleino sign put back up at Utica Road? It was a person at one time, and it's part of our history. If Sterling Heights residents has such a high standard, why did you not include them into your health clinic that you have provided for the employees, retirees, who will not have to pay co-pays? They already have good wages, health care, retirement. Residents are struggling to make ends meet and can't afford health care themselves. And soon you will have to build a new clinic and doctors, all kinds of medical equipment. And again, it'll fall back onto the taxpayers to pay for it. You will never have to campaign for a seat in the council again, because the employees will be so grateful to you that they will vote for you. If the middle pole is considered an art allegation, anything can be named an art. Name the roads an art form to match the rings, and the adjacent communities will be envious of Sterling Heights art roads. To see the council was smiling and raving over $80,000 middle pole. If the seed starts sprouting little middle trees, plant them in Dodge Park, which is being commercialized. The consul reminded me of the fable of the king's new clothes, where he was parading down the street, stark naked in front of his citizens. Remember, only God can make a tree. Does the fire department have oxygen masks for animals? How did we get on the tax rolls of Wayne and Oakland County for massive transit? For every $1,000 value of property that we have, we will be assessed $100. If I'm incorrect like that, please let me know. So if we value of our property, say, is $9,000, our taxes will go up $900. If I'm incorrect, please let me know. I only have Social Security of $1,200 a month, no pension. My husband's insurance has gone away, and I can't afford any more taxes and will have to sell my property, and that property will not last very long. And I will not look for my children for help. For them to take care of me. I'd rather go in a garage and carbon monoxide myself. The bills are tripling, paying for Highland Park's water, Frazier's problem, gas tax, the pool to tax to Warren. People cannot afford the basic essentials of life. They can't afford their medicine hardly, and health care. Car insurance is way out of whack. The Great Recession we had, history repeats itself. The bottom will fall out again and start all over again. Cost and maintenance to maintain the things that we have already in Sterling Heights are very, very expensive. Even to cut the grass, I understand, is $69 an hour to just cut grass. Please don't make any more projects that you don't have any money for, because just to maintain and keep what we have is going to be very expensive. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hatton. Anyone else? Mr. Thomas?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Now, about the Lakeside Mall, I don't think that the city can really do much of anything for the mall. And I believe that the beauty of capitalism is that when one business fails, the next one comes in. And I know that sounds bad because people lose their jobs, but who knows, a bigger company might come in and employ more people. You never know. And then you have to think about what's the alternative? Bailing out Lakeside? I don't think there's any way that the residents would agree with that. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Anyone else under communications from citizens? If not, we'll go on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool.
Mayor, just quickly, with respect to the home that was referenced earlier by residents, there are a number of concerns with the home. We're very aware of it. We are in the process of getting an administrative warrant. We hope to have that executed in the next week. In addition, the roof replacement has been approved and signed off on, so that will be moving forward in short order as soon as we can get the contractor mobilized to get out there. So I think we'll be making significant progress in the very near future. There is it's very difficult to get inside a home, thankfully, as it should be. So the conditions do have to be extreme to get an administrative search warrant, but our city attorney's very confident now the home is at the point where the administrative warrant will be approved. There was some, Mr. Smith indicated that he is very frugal. I'm sure he is, and that he typically goes to Colorado for $1,000. I can assure Mr. Smith and others that our cost is much less than $1,000. So we'd be happy to share our frugal ways with you if you would like. In addition, the fireworks, it is appropriate to mention the fireworks regulations. They can only be used during the national holidays designated by the state. The one holiday coming up is Independence Day, of course. They can only be used the day, 3 days during the holiday, the day before, the day of, the day after. So that'd be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And consumer-grade fireworks only during the times no later than midnight and not before 8 a.m. So we will be enforcing. Every year we issue citations. It's difficult, but we do ask for voluntary compliance. And let's see, lastly, we do have oxygen masks for dogs, and we do have to periodically use them. We'll take a look at getting the Clino sign back up. And just a closing comment on Lakeside. It's completely inaccurate to say that there's nothing the city can do. In fact, the city must be involved in the process. The only way that a redeveloped Lakeside Mall can move forward is through zoning changes and zoning updates by the Planning Commission and the City Council. So there's absolutely no choice but to have the city involved in the Planning Commission. And in all cases across the country, the municipalities have been a partner, in some cases the state and the counties as well. So even though it's a private entity, of course it is, there is a major role for the city to play, and it would be completely negligent for the city to sit on the sidelines and do nothing with this. As you know, when FCA was going through its difficult times at SHAP, had the city done nothing there, we likely would have a giant black hole along Van Dyke. And some said then the city shouldn't be involved. And because of the city's involvement, FCA has now invested billions of dollars in that site. And it's the only example in the country where they bought it back out of bankruptcy, the only plant in the country. So there is a role for government to play in these very unique situations. And I think the future in these cases is very bright and has always proven to be successful when we've intervened, when we've had to. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Mr. Koszybski, is there anything you can add to the Lodge Drive situation?
It is difficult for the government to get into a home. We have taken a lot of steps to move this forward, and I anticipate that we'll get a good resolution very shortly.
Okay. Anything else tonight, Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Council, I'll open it up for reports or new business.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Shannon?
Just really quick with regard to the home. I didn't catch the address at first, so if we could get the address sent to us, and then if we could be in on the correspondence and the events that take place in the next couple weeks, or however this is going to play out, I'd appreciate it. That's all I have.
Certainly. I've got the address actually here because it was emailed to me a couple weeks ago. I'll share it with council.
Thank you.
And of course, the administration is going to be updating. Anyone else?
Mayor,
Mr.
no, go on, Mr. Radke.
Mr. Radke.
I just wanted to say, I think the future of Lakeside is something that is on the council's mind and the city's mind, and something we take very seriously. Looking at what Mr. Vanderpool presented in the backup material, Lakeside has an economic impact of $200 million. And that impacts our entire city. It's a huge part of our budget. It's a huge undertaking for us. So I think that we start being a penny wise and a pound foolish sometimes when we say the city spends $10,000 to investigate the matter and really do it. It's a $200 million project. And that to us is the lifeblood of our city. And if we step by and do nothing and it collapses like Northland or one of the other things, or the Pontiac Silverdome, and becomes a dump, how fast are the residents going to leave our city? How fast is property value going to decrease? How high will our unemployment rate rise as over 1,000 people lose their jobs? I think I was at Lakeside this week and I was investigating it. I went shopping there, and the mall has changed. There aren't as many people there. Honestly, it was very, very unattended. There aren't that many shops there. Half the shops are closed. So you can open your eyes, or you can put your head in the sand. And I think too many people who parade before the microphone here are not thinking about the future of Sterling Heights. They're thinking about the past. They're putting their head in the sand. They're hoping that by doing nothing, something will happen. I think that that is just so short-sighted. And, you know, we were elected here to make the tough decisions. And the future of Lakeside is a tough decision. I take it very seriously. I know my colleagues do too. So I think that the insults need to stop. This is not a fun trip. We're going on Monday and coming back on Tuesday to really investigate the matter and take care of it. I think that needs to be put on the record. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Mrs. Zarko.
I'm going to expound a little bit more. Yesterday, I had a meeting with Mr. Vanderpool, and he handed me my packet for Monday and Tuesday. And he says, what do you think? I says, well, you know, to be honest with you, I know this is something that I really think we should do. And on the other hand, I know that we're going to get criticized because we're going to do our job. So if I sat here and let people who threaten me with the next election, or let people that aren't looking at the whole picture make a decision for me, I'm not doing my job. And that's probably how I feel. Tonight, unsolicited, Mr. Donovan and Mr. Karam told us we were doing a great job by going out and looking at this, this complex that's in Colorado. You know what? Nobody said anything that the people here actually had to rearrange their work schedules. Some of them are working full-time, had to rearrange work schedules in order to do this. They're leaving their families. So for this is, even if it's an overnight stay, they're leaving their families, and I'm sure that they have something else that they could be doing on Monday or Tuesday. But instead, we're serving the residents of this community to make sure that whatever happens on M59 is in the best interest of all of us. And I can say, Mr. Donovan, that's because your example was there, is that you made the best decisions at that time that would move this city forward, and that's what we have to do now because it is a changing city. We're actually meeting with the city council out there to find out what they did, what input they had as far as even the construction to do something like this. What did it involve? What did you do about permits? Did you charge for everything? Did you waive some of the permits so that it was easier for this to be developed? What considerations did you take in mind? I mean, those are some of the questions that I have for the council members there, because we're invited to their council meeting. So, I mean, these are the reasons why I'm going. And even with this torn, because I think we need to go and know that we're going to get criticized for doing it, only makes me feel that I know I'm doing the right thing now. So bring it up. You want to threaten us with an election, Mr. Smith, over and over and over again, be my guest. But we're going to check this out so that we can do the best for the city of Sterling Heights.
Anyone else? Anything else, I should say, Mrs. Zarko?
Anything else? Yes, but I will tell you back. Yes, I've got plenty. But no, I'm tired of being threatened for doing my job and what I think is what is in the best interest of this community. And I'm just going to be that much stronger for it, and I'm going to encourage all my colleagues to do the same thing. So we're going to work together. We're going to get this done and bring on the criticism. Now I'm finished.
Okay, council, anyone else?
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt.
Okay, so now I guess I'll talk about Colorado. Mrs. Yarko's right. We are taking time out from our busy schedules because that's what we were elected to do. We're elected to educate ourselves on making good and tough decisions when it's warranted. As far as a luxurious junket that we're taking, it's not in my packet. I don't know if the rest of you got a luxurious junket, but we have a very full schedule of meeting with people and developers, city leaders in Colorado. There's no luxury. I think we're in, the economy section of the airplane. I'm not even sure, but we are as frugal as they get. So I have no qualms about going. It's one thing, Mrs. Yarko and I and Mayor Taylor, we were up in Mackinac for the MML conference a couple years ago. And there, again, we went to a city council meeting to see how their city council meetings ran. And that was very educational and eye-opening. What a difference every community has. And when we have developers or people come before us and say, wow, you guys do a really good job with your meetings. We don't know what they're talking about until we go to some of these other communities and see the difference in how meetings are run. Not that theirs are bad and ours are good, they're just very different. So we are taking the time out to educate ourselves, and I don't apologize for that. And on to a new subject through the chair to Mr. Vanderpool. Shaner Road, do we have a timetable of when that will be done? Because everybody now thinks construction's done, it's milled down, and okay, it's so much smoother, they're just gonna leave it like this. And I know that's not true, but do we have a time frame?
Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilwoman Schmidt, the plan is to have it done end of June. That was the original plan. There's obviously been some delays with rain and weather and ponding and so on that has delayed construction. But I'll get you a better update. But I think they're still on track to have this pretty much wrapped up in the next, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. There's many other road projects that are ready to get started that are really kind of waiting for the Shaner project to get finished up.
And then will 15 Mile at Shaner be next, or?
Yes, 15 Mile at Shaner will be next. The plan is to get that done this summer before school starts. And then Dodge Park Road will start after Sterling Fest. Utica Road will start after Sterling Fest, sometime late summer, early fall. North Van Dyke will start later this summer. Mound Road will start on July 8th. So as you can imagine, that's going to be an unbelievable project. This is just the Band-Aid that will be from July 8th through probably a good part of November. Then we have a number of other, Canal is underway as we speak. So needless to say, it's a busy construction season.
And I will say that the North Van Dyke from the bridge to Hall Road was done very quickly, and it is so nice. So I appreciate that. And with that, I have nothing further.
All right, council, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
I would like to add to Ms. Sarko's comments. The growth that you see here in Sterling Heights didn't come by magic. It came from other communities. Mr. Vanderpool will probably agree with me. We were members of Michigan Municipal League. I was also a member of National League of Cities. I did a lot of traveling over the years. I went to different communities. I went all over the United States. I even went to Alaska. I learned quite a bit. And I brought those ideas here back to my home, Sterling Heights, because I wanted Sterling Heights to be recognized, to become an item on the map. And the only way that was going to happen was to build a great community. And every opportunity that I had to speak with council people, to see their city, to see their projects, to see what they did, their ideas, what were they doing that made their city great, I brought home to Sterling Heights, passed it on to the then city manager and union officials, different departments, and I feel that that helped this city grow. And I know I'm not the only one that did that. I know our different boards and commission members also have had the opportunity to do this. So going to Colorado to find out what do we do with Lakeside Mall is the best idea in the world, because you can use your imagination if you see what other people have. You can take their ideas and create your own. So, in my opinion, this is the best trip that we could be taking for the future of Lakeside Mall. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? If not, just a few things. The first, I want to address the issue with the cats, what the first speaker had. The issue came up months ago, and I can't remember how it was resolved, maybe with a different homeowner. But Mr. Koszubski, is there an ordinance that prohibits residents from feeding animals outdoors that you're aware of?
Yes, the city has ordinances both requiring that cats cannot be let out of homes and run free amongst neighborhoods, and you're not supposed to be feeding animals that are feral cats and other wild animals, because it does attract those undesirable animals to the locations. So there are ordinances on the books to do this, The difficulty is finding out who's doing it and then having code enforcement or animal control deal with that.
Sure, and I think with a lot of residents, they have concerns when we see residents saying their neighbors are doing something, they want to be anonymous, and Deanna came right here on public access TV and had no problem. So perhaps she can, we can reach out to her and make sure she knows that, she can avail herself of that ordinance and let our code enforcement and let our police know. And as a public service announcement, it doesn't do any good to feed cats. It breeds more cats, it attracts more cats, and the more cats in the neighborhood, the more babies are going to be born, the kittens are going to be born, the more dangerous it is for those cats. They're not going to last the winter. They're going to die in very cruel and inhumane ways. And so while it might seem counterintuitive to not feed them, it really is a disservice. And so we would encourage anyone, do not feed feral cats or stray cats. There is a more humane way of dealing with them than that. And it's not, our neighborhoods are just not set up for that. This city of Sterling Heights is not a rural area, and we can't really absorb cats in that same way. Just a lot of good comments, I think, have been made regarding Lakeside. A few additional points that I want to make. Want to reiterate one thing that's been very that's been brought up on multiple occasions is the cost. Mr. Smith indicated that it would be $30,000 or $40,000. From talking with Mr. Vanderpool, it's less than $1,000 a person, so under $15,000 is the total trip cost for $1,000 per person, that is. So under $15,000 is the total trip cost. And, you know, we can hire a lot of experts and analysts and consultants, and we can do a lot right here with $15,000 and probably not get near the amount of information that we're going to get by going out and doing site visits. And so I think it's money well spent, and I certainly stand behind it. There's also, as Mr. Thomas had mentioned, a lot of people are asking, you know, what, the city doesn't own this mall, so what involvement should the city have in it? As it was pointed out, the mall is not just going to go bankrupt and then somebody else come in and take it over. This is not like a restaurant pad, okay, where a restaurant goes out of business so another restaurant comes in and thinks they can run it more efficiently or effectively. We're talking about a massive piece of property. Another operator is not just going to come in and try to make a go at it and try to succeed where the prior owner failed. So it needs to be reimagined. There needs to be a redevelopment there, and the city needs to facilitate that through the planning process. Planning and land use are core functions of local government. We have a very detailed zoning ordinance, a very detailed zoning map. This is, like I said, a core function of local government, and with our most important retail corridor, we would be derelict if we didn't do everything we could to protect it. So this is not a situation where a new owner is just going to come in and spin it and flip it and use it and make it a more profitable venture than it was before. That's not happening. So a couple responses to Mr. Jefferson. First of all, I'm always careful to not misconstrue what people said, but I want to be very clear that our police department is an upstanding police department. We have a great police department. We don't have a lot of the problems that have plagued other areas, and I think it's because of the wonderful men and women that we have serving our police department. And any suggestion that the weather's warm and people of color need to be concerned about our police, I think is unfounded. I think it's borne out by the record of our police department. And certainly if there are incidents that happen here in the city of Sterling Heights, this council will take them incredibly seriously. Our chief will take them seriously. And I think the men and women, the colleagues of the police officers will take them very seriously. So I don't worry about that in the least bit. You have asked me on multiple occasions, what are we doing to attract millennials? Well, I mean, we did just invest $45 million in our parks and recreation system, which is an unprecedented move in the city's history. And it's unprecedented, really, I think, in this area. I don't know of any other city that had, when I talk to other municipal leaders, when other mayors, other city council members, and talk to them about the investment that we've put into our park system here, they're kind of blown away by it. It's unique, it's distinctive, and it is something that is, if you go and look, I mean, you just go look at their Facebook page. When they announce that splash pad is opening, people in my age range, in their 30s that have kids, that is what they want. They want amenities like that. So you can roll your eyes and shake your head all you want, but that is what, I'm telling you, that is what my peers want. That is what people who are professionals want. And I think that's the one thing we're doing. We're also doing everything we can to redevelop Lakeside Mall. We've talked about it. Another thing we're doing to help with the millennial population, I think, is we're doing a lot of senior developments that are allowing seniors to grow in their place, and so that they can move out of their houses and stay in the city, stay close to family. And we have a number of affordable developments like that. We've got apartment developments coming up at 15 Mile and Van Dyke that are being built by Tony Gallo, a couple hundred units there that are going to be affordable, that are going to be close to Van Dyke. You can get downtown easily. You can get to Troy or to the Oakland County easily. You can get to the eastern part of Macomb County or the northern part, wherever the jobs are. Of course, we've got 60 or 70,000 jobs right here in Sterling Heights. We've been doing everything we can on economic development to make sure that our industry and our commercial is strong so we can attract people to move into our houses. And finally, we've got very good property values here. I think we've got very strong property values, but we're incredibly affordable. If you compare Macomb County and Sterling Heights, what you get for your money in Sterling Heights compared to other areas in the country, Chicago, New York, Boston, San Francisco, Dallas, Houston, you look at those other areas, they cannot have people living in their area. They cannot have people living 20 minutes, 30 minutes from the jobs like we can here. You can get 5 times the house in Sterling Heights that you can get in a suburb of Boston, and you're twice as close to work. So I think we're very competitive, and we're doing everything we can to attract those millennials and be able to keep our seniors living in the city of Sterling Heights and attract families, 30s, 40s, and 50s, people who have young kids growing up to kids in high school and moving on to college. I think we're hitting all of our marks, so I'm very excited about that. And I'm very excited about our 50th anniversary, which is coming up on June 28th. That's 9 days from today. We heard a lot about it today. I encourage everybody to get out and come to Dodge Park. We've got events going on from 7 a.m. all the way till 10:30 with the fireworks. I think I'm out of breath, and I'm ready to adjourn this meeting. So if anybody else would like to make that motion?
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.